What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Awake and Sober Podcast, a podcast about life and recovery through Christ. We just want to take a second and thank you for joining us today on whatever podcast platform you're listening on. We just want to thank you for stumbling upon us, if you just stumbled upon us. We do have a great show for you today. We decided a few weeks ago that our listeners probably needed to know a little bit more about us.
Or at least about a couple of us.
About a couple of us, yes. So today is the Derek interview. So
it's the Derek Show.
The D Show.
What's up, everybody?
The one without the beard.
The beardless wonder.
The beardless wonder. That's right. You know what? And I'm okay with that. So
Are you?
I am actually.
Okay.
I got too much Mexican and Indian in me. I can't grow a beard to save my life outside of a goatee anyway. So
But you have a great head of hair, though.
I do.
It's something I clearly do not have.
Yeah, I'm a little jealous of it.
It's thinning a little bit on top.
All yours?
Yeah.
I think it looks good, though. You need to quit with the comb over.
I do.
Comb your beard up over the top.
I could. So back on the camera today.
Yes, I am. I guess it's the second week in a row back up here. It's interesting. Now I'm feeling a little more comfortable. First time I was like really kind of intimidated. I mean, even though we're all friends, we all talk, and but you put the cameras up, the microphones, and all of a sudden there's that just like, what's going on here?
I know all 20 listeners are gonna.
I know.
Well, I'll tell you what, if there's only 20, we probably still wouldn't be doing it.
And then
I get all the stats.
Yeah, and then as I listen to it, I'm so critical of myself. I'm like, man, I didn't sound good. I didn't like how I sound, but
we've all been through that.
You definitely sound better than you look.
That's
that's
true.
a
I
plus.
mean, I have to sound better than I look. I mean, come on.
Yeah, true that.
Shane, how you doing, buddy?
It's been a roller coaster of a journey recently, but I am well. It is well with my soul. Ever since last Sunday when God wrecked me at church, ever since then, it has been well with my soul. I've been loving life.
I can tell the difference.
Yeah. I mean, look, getting on new meds, I had to cycle those in and try to figure out being back on meds. And there's just a lot to it. But it was pretty nice to have that done and out of the way. So I feel pretty good. How about you?
Good. It's been a good week. I shared with you guys, I picked up my first sponsee today. So that was pretty exciting. I had
a hand clap for that.
It was funny because today I felt like I needed a meeting more than I needed church, and it was because it's something different about a meeting, right? Mm-hmm. It's that spiritual connection, and I felt like I went and I did, and this guy sat down next to me, and he looked like not well, and we just hit it off, and then we spent the next 3 hours at a coffee shop, so it was good.
Wow, sounds like a blast.
It was
One of those God moments.
Definitely was.
You're in the right place at the right time.
Exactly.
God moments at meetings.
And he's already texting me. Dude. Like he's already like checking in and everything. So
what homework did you give him to start his journey with you?
So I bought him a big book and a 12 and 12.
Okay.
12 for AA.
Right.
So he's going to read, his assignment is to read the doctor's opinion and Bill's story. He's got to define admitted, powerless, and unmanageable. He's got to list 10 things he's powerless over, 10 areas of his life that are unmanageable, and then he has to define what step 1 means to him.
Nice. See, I'm a fan of homework.
Yeah, it's homework.
Yeah, I mean, I love homework. I love definitions, obviously.
Yes.
I know it's shocking to most, but I love definitions and what it meant to me before and what it means to me now since I've been in recovery. It's just not enough sponsors give out homework.
No.
So it's good to see.
And I know we talked on that before, but pen to paper on every step is key. It's key.
You won't ever hear any disagreements from me.
I know I won't.
And I could tell you, our sponsor was in San Francisco this past week. So he just got back from Europe and then went straight to San Francisco. So he should be back, and we'll be able to have a conversation about some of that.
Nice.
I'm pretty excited.
Yeah.
As Derek, I think, has mine down there.
I do.
What else is going on? I mean, besides, are we just going to interview this guy today? Have some fun or what?
I guess so.
Put him on the hot seat?
Yeah. I feel like he's nervous. He says he's not nervous, but he's walked in here with like this, I don't know. What's wrong with you, Bob?
if there any kind of nervousness going on right now, if that
Spit it out, boy. Spit it out.
if I have any nervousness right now, it's this job situation tomorrow. I've got a raise at my job, which I'm really happy. I got to hear from somebody in charge. The reason I had this job is because I've improved so much at where I work. And that was like really exciting to hear because I always go in there nervous as hell to go into work because I don't know what I'm doing in there. But obviously, I'm making a difference in people's lives. So,
Brother, you've been making a difference in people's lives for a lot of years now.
yeah, and still doubt myself. I'm not gonna lie.
We all do.
That's okay. Doubt.
You doubt me too?
Well, we all doubt you.
I don't doubt you, but I mean, I also doubt myself.
Here's the thing that we have to remember is God's in charge, right?
Right.
So yeah, left up to your own power, your own will, your own way,
Oh,
you would screw it up.
without a doubt.
Yeah,
But God-
and I think we're going to get to that in the interview. Actually,
God gifts
know?
you very well, brother. God has gifted you well.
what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now, right?
Yeah, right.
The easy questions.
Yeah. So, Derek, why don't you share, like, where were you born, born and raised, and what kind of religious or spiritual upbringing did you have?
All right, so I was born in a little area of the country we like to call the East Side. Not the East Coast, but the East Side.
So where's the east side for those that
Normally, the funny thing is, when I say East Side, everybody knows exactly where I'm coming from.
We do.
that's not people in California, that's not people in
true.
Texas or
It is true. I was born and raised East St. Louis. One of the top, I think, in the top 3 of murder county capitals in the country.
Mm-hmm.
I was born and raised there. Lived there till I was about 9, 10, and then moved over to the east side of Belleville. From one east side to the other, and
Belleville.
yeah. And religious wise, I would say I was more religious than spiritual because we was using that to cover our butts and a lot of things that we were doing in my household. I didn't come from like one of those sweet little, white picket fence houses, even though we made it look as such, but it wasn't like that growing up. We were.
So that kind of leads into, so what was your family life like?
If there was anything that we could have do that and got away with it, we would have did it, and we did it. We we hustled out of the house on the 24/7. I didn't get raised to play football or baseball, and I got raised how to hustle and make it through life. And so, one of our biggest hustles, like I said, was we made the whole white picket fence life out there when it really was that was just a cover, like I said, a cover up to what the dark stuff that we were doing. We had the image of legal, well-behaved individuals. Anything illegal we were doing, we got away with.
You know what? It sounds like they had the image of Leave It to Beaver, the Cleavers.
It wasn't quite like that because there was 9 kids in the house and a mom and a dad, and
So it's more like the Brady Bunch.
if I could. So the guy that raised me was not my biological father, and that it was his brother that he was shot by an officer back when I was not even a year old. And my uncle came in, took over the spot, and raised me. And that's only because my mom had worked for him at the time. And then my mother ended up having 4 more kids with him. My 4 brothers were all from this one guy, and the guy that raised us, anyways. And then when I was 8, Mom left, and that pretty much my dad chased her off. He was just like, you know what? He got in a car accident. He couldn't get around. So he was just like, instead of me going from house to house, because he had another woman that he was having kids with. It was really funny because I got a, yeah, it's funny because I got a brother.
It's not funny. I'm just trying to put. So your uncle raised you,
Yes,
and then your uncle had children with
my
your
mother.
Mother,
Yes,
and then at 8, your
mother left.
got ran off, and your uncle got with somebody else.
He had been with somebody else the whole time.
Okay.
Dad was a pimp. Dude, he had his women. My mom really worked for him. It's really surprising when he even showed up at the house. And usually because he was just going to come out and say it, and my family might get upset with him. He was normally high and freaking, needed to get his he just come out and say he had to get his rocks off and took it out on my mom. And the sad thing was, it was usually after he beat the crap out of her, which was really hard to deal with growing up. Because he was never there. So I was, being the elder, kid, I was the man of the house, so I thought, and this man come in and take over everything, and it was just like, what the heck? And there was nothing I could have done, So that part was rough, and that, but yeah, mom left when we were 8. Dad chased her off because he had a bad car accident, couldn't get around, and he made it out to be like, hey, I can't get back and forth and take care of this house, take care of this house, take care of this, So he brought all his kids together into one house, and he chose my stepmother as the person he was going to be with, and chased my mom off. So my mom took off and left.
So, how did sports play a part in your life?
There ain't no damn, man. The only thing I learned how to do, I learned how to box, man.
Yeah, I know.
I was a boxer, and I planned on being. It is a sport, but it wasn't so much like
Street boxing.
Yeah, because Dad was always like, "Oh, you don't have to grow up to be a boxer, but you ain't gonna be no punk on the street either, though." So it wasn't so much I was being trained in a sport, but we made it look as a sport because once again, it was a cover up.
Right.
I was being trained. Actually, if I had to take somebody's throat out, I could. But let's call it boxing. You stand up and just throw some punches. If you slip up and hit somebody in the throat, oh, whoops, they ran into it, right? So, I mean,
They should have been prepared for it.
exactly. They should have been blocking.
But
Little bob and weave there.
Yeah, that's the only real sports that got played. I mean, I tried football and stuff like that, but I was too busy hustling.
Now, did you complete high school?
No, I got my GED in the joint.
Okay. So,
I mean, I went through all 12 years, but my last year I had broken my back. My senior year, so I did it at home. And because I didn't get all my credits, I needed to graduate from being homeschooled that year because of my back being broken. So I was supposed to go back, and I didn't go back.
gotcha.
Man, I took off to Florida, went down there to work. That's where I caught my case. That's where I did my time. And I was in there. I was like, hey, might as well get my GED while I'm here, right?
so when did it start for you? When did the addiction come into play?
I would say my drug use, the first time I ever got high, I was 8 years old.
Okay.
And I'm bugging my dad. I'm like, dude, you shouldn't smoke. Smoking's bad. I'm 8 years old. I'm in school. We're being told cigarette smoking stuff's bad for you. I ain't know nothing about no drugs yet. And so I'm bugging my dad, why do you smoke? And he's like, here. And he showed me exactly why he smoked. And it was the buzz.
Right.
So
he handed you a joint at 8?
yes.
I'm glad I didn't do that with my kids.
So am I.
I mean, and I was using, but yeah, it's hard to think of.
And he was probably high at the moment anyway. So, he was smoking. So obviously he didn't think of it, but.
So what was that progression like? If you started at 8, did you continuously go from 8 on, or did you just like?
I know I came off of it. I wasn't, because I was a kid. I didn't know any better. So it wasn't like, it was usually when Dad came home to smoke and there was people in the house, hey, you guys go to your room and stay out. We're not to be seen or heard when we have company over. So, every now and then I was able to come down because I was the eldest, and I would, smoke with him because I thought it was the cool thing to do. Dad did it. Why wouldn't it be, right? Mm-hmm. But it really, I think it took off when I went into high school when I was about 13. And then when I really started dealing, that I started smoking more. And I stayed on that.
You said, how old were you?
13.
13?
Yeah. Because I was dealing it, so I smoked with the people I dealt to. I didn't realize that many people smoked weed in high school, but I'll be darned.
As he's walking around with a fat knot at the age of 13.
And all that money went right back home to Dad. I got nice clothes and stuff from doing my work, but for the most part, all the money I made went to him. It wasn't like I was hustling for myself. It was taking care of the family. Dad was the type, hey, this is our ship, and if you're not helping us row, then you're being as an anchor. So I worked my butt off to, make things right. It was rough.
Sounded like your dad instilled some things in you.
Oh, he did. He did. But, he got that from somewhere himself. He had his own issues and things he never dealt with because he wouldn't understand them. But when he was 12, it's a funny thing, he would tell the stories, I didn't start getting in trouble, but once I turned 13, I was always getting in trouble. That may have something to do with me at 13 getting into that same thing. But it was within a year after he found out that the woman raising him was not his biological mother. He found out his auntie was his biological mother and that grandma had been raising him. And it's like ever since he had heard that, that's when all the trouble started for him. And I asked him, I remember asking that one time, this was before I even knew anything about work and recovery and any of that jive. And I asked him, you think anything that had anything to do with it? And his look at me was like, maybe. And that was the only conversation I had with him about it. I really wish he was around the day where we can actually have this talk and I can sit down with him, you know.
Yeah, it would be an awesome opportunity. Did he go through his family? Did you go through your family? Like how big it is?
No, well, I did say there was 9 kids. And
Yeah.
mom and dad, yeah,
I remember that too. So
yeah.
I just wanted to make sure because I mean it's not a small family by any means.
It's the complete opposite of mine.
Yeah, I was not an only child, and the thing was, being the eldest child, I had to take care of everything else. Like all the jive and all the things were going on, I had to be there to take care of the kids. Because people ask me, why am I so good with babies? How am I so good with kids all the time, especially like in the youth and all that kind of thing? That's all I've ever really known. Outside of making a hustle was taking care of the family, and that's I'm a big family guy because of it.
But he didn't remind me of the oldest. Like when we were all together for the event we went to a couple years ago, and when I met everybody,
Yeah,
you just didn't seem like the oldest.
because I was not my uncle's kid.
Yeah.
So I was seen differently, and he swore up and down he loved me to death, and I know he did, but he had more love for his actual blood kids than he did for us, for me, and my sister Angel. She was also that way, She was my father's, not my uncle's, but yeah, and I know, like I said, I know he loved me. He did treat me in a certain way and stuff, but I wasn't one of his blood. And it has showed over the years. I wouldn't pay attention to it back then because I was just a kid and I was just hoping that he did love me. But as now I see it had a lot to do with my addictive behaviors, without a doubt, because of my mental health, and I was using the drugs to cover it up.
So you said you ended up in Florida?
Yes.
Okay, so how'd you get from East St. Louis to Florida?
So my stepmom had a brother that he was also had some cases, I guess you can say, and he had been shipped. He went down to Florida and took on construction and all that work. So to get me up out of, more or less, I was 17, getting ready to turn 18, so they would not be able to get paid for me by the state anymore in my household. They sent me somewhere where I can learn how to work and learn some work ethic.
Hmm.
And so I went, and he was down there already building houses, had a thing going, so I went and worked with him. That's where I got my positive work. What's it called? Ethics.
Work ethics?
Yes, that's it.
I would call them work skills too.
Work
Because you
skills,
became
yeah.
a skilled laborer out of that.
Yes, I did. I mean, I can go onto any job site and really start for no less than $30 an hour if I really chose to right now, because I know what I'm doing.
Really?
Oh yeah, dude. I built a house from the bottom to the top.
Bro, I didn't even know you don't come off as a guy that even knows how to use a tape measure.
Oh, brother, you had no idea. I rock.
Now, a
don't know.
lawnmower, I think you can handle a lawnmower pretty well.
All right. Oh, there we
Yeah,
go.
stuff just
Now
got
we're gonna
real.
get started on that one, right? I can too, though.
All right.
I love you, Derek. I
know
love you.
do.
Just got real.
So when did you, so you went down there, you're working, like, were you doing illegal activities? I mean, how did you catch a case?
I was doing illegal activities. Of course I was.
Okay. All right.
It's all I knew, So I went down there. I started dealing down there for the guy I went down to work with. It was pushing for him, and I had some money stashed up, and it came down to, man, I let somebody watch over my safe for me at one time, and he brought some female over there that he paid for, and she ended up robbing my safe because I left it open.
That's not really a good use of a safe.
No, I honestly left it open, and I left, and then I told him, keep an eye on everything, and the woman that he brought to the house ended up robbing me. So I found out where she was at, went after her, and it just happened. We were driving down the interstate, there she was, and I pulled my gun on her, told her to pull over. I wanted my money back. And my dumb self, at 18 years of age, didn't pay attention to the fact that 3 cars ahead of us was a blue suit, and saw the gun and everything and pulled us over. And by the time he got to me, I had it out the window. It was gone, but he had seen it, but there was still no proof. But I still got a case for it.
How much time did you do?
Year and a half.
Year and a half. So, were you active in your addiction in that time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was.
Were you dealing to maintain your addiction, or were you?
Well, see, that would go. I think I was dealing to maintain my mental health because it felt so damn good to have all that money.
Mm.
And I was making that extra money. I was working a legitimate job. So this was one thing that Dad always tried to teach us was if you're going to be hustling and doing all this work, make sure you have a legitimate job to make it, so you can try to cover up where this money's coming from. And I actually had that going on. So I felt really good. And my Dad would be so proud if he actually saw what was going on. And then, so I think that had a lot of driven to me doing what I did about the case situation because I was dumb and let somebody rob me.
So did you still have a relationship with Dad while you were down there?
Yes.
Just asking. You said Dad would be proud of me. So was he proud?
Well, I never told him what the money I was taking and I was making because I didn't want him wanting it because he would have just asked for it. It's just how, it was money was so good to him when it was somebody else's, but he was taking, so I never told him exactly what I was doing and that until I got the case. And if you would have been sending that money to me, then, you would it never been stolen. You never had a case. Mm. Yeah, Dad, you're probably right. But you know what? I got to make my own mistakes.
Well, you wouldn't have had it anyway then.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
That's a long pause. I figured somebody would have a question ready.
I have a question. I didn't know Steve was going to ask.
Steve's just been sitting over there.
I know.
I've just been sitting over here.
Yeah, Steve, you can't just sit there. If you're going to be on camera and be on mic, go ahead, speak up, my good sir. Don't be scared.
Don't scared. I'm just kind of taking notes here, listening to everything going on. I mean,
taking notes. When you can write the book.
I got a recording of it. You could take notes later.
I know, but I mean, I got some stuff that I can, if I want to go back and look at some other stuff.
Well, go ahead.
So, what were some of the root causes of your addiction?
Mom leaving at 8 years old, finding out that my dad was not my real father and trying to impress him all the time.
When did you find that out, that Dad wasn't your real dad? How old were you?
About 8 years old.
How many times have you gotten sober?
Ooh.
Oh, sure. Let's see, there was this one time back in 87. And I really tried this whole sobriety thing multiple times. I've been to multiple places and that, right now is my longest and best amount of time without using. But at the same time, part of my issue was if every drug I ever did in my life, I first did with Dad, then there was nothing wrong with what I was doing. I never was able to accept any of the mental health part because, for starters, that wasn't allowed. You can't show no fear. You can't show no emotions because all you're doing is showing weakness. Once you do that, the enemy would take over.
Yeah, but back then, mental health wasn't the same as what it is now. Like,
no, it is not.
You kept that under wraps just because of the stigma. I mean, the stigma's still bad, but nothing like it was when you were younger.
No. And they try to go to my dad and try to tell my dad I think I got depression issues. He'd have freaking laughed at me and beat it out of me probably. Put the gloves on, boy. We'll take this outside. And, we go toe-to-toe for a little bit. So.
What were you going to ask him, Jay?
No, it was along the lines of your addiction. So how many years did you struggle with this? I mean, you said you started at 13, but when did you really realize that it was a problem and it was affecting your life?
When I was 26 years old, I met my ex-wife.
Okay.
She had a son, and it was at that moment in my life that I decided it's time for me I need to straighten up. Something is not right. And I tried multiple times. I did the California sober thing for quite a long time, but I always kept going back to the other stuff because that always numb me to whatever things I was feeling and stuff. And that I think the biggest hit that I ever took was when I found out my biological mother had died. I was searching for her, trying to find her because I needed answers to the questions that I had. I really thought, and by the time I got in touch with her stepmom, I come to find out that she had died 5 years before I got there, and I went on a big speed rush on that. It went, my emotions went crazy on that one. Mm-hmm. I needed answers. I was never going to get the answers that I wanted, and I would never thought I'd be able to forgive her.
What kind of role has God played in your sobriety?
Yeah, when did you find God along this way? That was going to be my next question.
I've always knew there was a God. That's without a doubt, because we used it to cover our butts. But we went to church every Sunday just so people seen us at church. How can somebody at church be robbing and stealing and hustling like that,
pimp?
right? Yeah, who not on Sunday morning. Who could do that, right? But no, I've always known there was a God. It was, I would have to say, back in 2006 when I first truly surrendered myself to God. I was at so this was right after I found out about my mom dying. So it was about that same time. And then we ended up going, because of this binge I went on, we ended up leaving everything we had here in Illinois and going up to New York, where my ex-wife's family lives, right, where my girls are at. So we went up there, and I couldn't fit into these people's house, man. I tried to be respectful, but like, respect will only go so far if you ain't getting it back in return. And they were just rude, it just got to the point where I was just like, I got to do something else. If I didn't go, and I'm in New York, so I didn't know anybody. I didn't know where to go get high, because that would have just been helped out, right? But ended up separating and got put into a homeless shelter, the rescue mission. Props out to the rescue mission in New York. And the funny thing was, so, I mean, you can imagine, I'm in New York, I know nobody. I'm around a bunch of silly individuals I don't know. You can just imagine my attitude them days. You don't come nowhere near me, I'm going to punch you dead in your nose, right? And that's how it was. And I woke up one Saturday. This was on a Wednesday that I went into the homeless shelter. So it was that night. So Thursday and Friday, I had this attitude. I didn't want to hear nobody's crap. I wasn't putting up with anything. If I felt disrespected in any kind of way, you'd have known about it. That's just where I was at. And Saturday I woke up and it's like, dude, I'm in a spot. Some way or another, I got to make this work. I got to figure out be more positive about this and get through what I'm going through. So I went into the homeless shelter day room, and they called a Bible study. Okay. So, I get it. I know there's been a God. I've seen him there before. I know grandma, this woman sweated holy water. Without a doubt, that's how powerful she was. This woman, real quick, taught at a prison, and it's because she spoke fluent Spanish. So she spoke, did the Latin Bible studies in prison until she was 84 years old. 3 days before she died, she did her last sermon in a prison. Yeah, so grandma, much love to you. But anyway, so I went I was like, you know what? Let me go check out this Bible study. I go in there. And, it's really simple Bible. It was the Daily Bread. I know everybody out there's seen the Daily Bread books. It was out of that.
Got some upstairs. Grandma's got some upstairs.
See? So I was like, oh, wow, Daily Bread. All right. But you know what? Give the guy the benefit of the doubt. And it was almost as if it was, a lesson that I needed to hear that day, of course, right? And I'm just like, yeah, whatever. Haven't truly got out of that bad boy attitude that I've had the last few days and how mad I am at everything. But I took what I heard that day pretty well, and then Sunday, the rescue mission has a Sunday morning service. So I was like, you know what? Why not, right? I go in there, the guy's preaching out of Hebrews chapter 11. And he's talking about Abraham, how Abraham was told to get out of his area and go over here until the Lord said it was ready. And it was like, I started meditating on that, and I was just like, was I brought here to New York to get out of the evil and stuff I was dealing down there in Illinois? And, but you know what? It's just by chance, right? Yeah, yesterday's service seemed to be touching at me. This one seems to be, but, it's whatever. And of course, went on the next days, in a better mood, still homeless, but still in a better mood. Didn't talk to my ex-wife at all. And Wednesday, they had the midweek service. And of course, all right, last two have seemed to be very powerful. Let me go see what this one's about. And it went to the book of Judges, Jephico or whatever one of the judges' names was. And it was all about him and how he was the lesser of his family. And everybody looked at him as that. And even the father taught treated the other kids better than he. And I was just like, you gotta be kidding me. No, and that's, I think in theory, that would have been like one of the first times I really recognized what mental health was about. And it was, me feeling that pain that I felt from my father treat me the way he did as opposed to he did his kids. And then it was like, I hit my knees and surrendered right then and there, and I accepted Christ into my life. And truly accepted Christ into my life.
Family, how many kids do you have?
I have 2 kids and a stepson.
So
2 daughters and a stepson.
How has your addiction affected that family?
Well, as I've shared before on the podcast, man, I just met my 12-year-old daughter for the first time last year. And that right now, if you guys don't mind, it's really a subject I don't really want to get into too much today.
That's fine. What, you're talking about how you found religion, you gave yourself over to God. How did that evolve in your life?
Well, for starters, I didn't find religion. I found spirituality.
I changed that up.
All right. And it really what it was is, so once I get surrendered, I found out about the Salvation Army Rehabilitation Program up there for adults. Like, well, I'll go give it a shot because it was a Christ-centered place. So I went in there, and a gentleman, Mike Timone, and I don't know if he's still preaching up there or not, but he was a pastor at the Resurrection Church in Syracuse, and that he wore a shirt that said, "It's against my relationship to have a religion." And that's when I truly started to grasp the whole relationship part outside of being in a religious situation, because it was religion that was keeping me away from the church to begin with. And over the years, I've always been there. It's over the last 5 years has really grown more than anything else. But even the years before that, there's always been a God, and I did my best to surrender to him.
Yeah, I mean, I know I've known you for a while now, and I've really seen you grown lately. I'm just kind of impressed of where you've come to. What was the last straw? What was the last straw when you finally got sober and it took?
Okay, so my wife's not here. She was here.
She probably won't be watching it, don't worry.
Oh, no, she's going to know about this one. She'll definitely listen. And probably Jeremy's wife would tell on me, but no, she's listening. All right, so my wife, she will admit, and I've mentioned it on here plenty of times before, my wife would admit that she was clean codependent. She did anything I wanted in that, as long as she had control over the situation. So I went to jail. I had gone to jail because I got caught up on a case back in February 5 years ago, whatever it was, 2018. That's what it was. It was back in 2018, and I caught a case for having a possession. And I didn't go to court, so I ended up going to jail, and she took care of me while I was in there. She let me back in the house as soon as I got out. But I was still in the mindset of using, so I ended up leaving one day and moved in with a friend of mine that I knew from back in the day. And was staying there, but then that wasn't going over too well, so I needed to come home. I thought, let me give her a call. Maybe she'll let me come in. And she had been going to Celebrate Recovery in the codependency group, and when I asked her if I can come home, she straight up told me no.
Got a little surprise there?
Ain't nobody ever tell me no before,
Boundary? What's that?
And that was like a complete sentence. No. She did help me get into a hotel room that night and somewhere to stay, but yeah. It was her telling me no that I had to recognize, wait a second, I can't keep doing this. Something's got to change completely. And that's when I surrendered at Celebrate Recovery, got my blue chip, and I've been going ever since.
So when you got
July 17th,
so when you got
2018.
So when you got sober, did you go through a program, or did you do a treatment center? How'd you?
Not this last time. This last time I just gave it up. I had been to programs before. I knew the steps. I knew everything I needed to do. I just had to get involved in it. And there was a place in Quincy, Illinois. I was in there for a week, and they asked me to leave because I was teaching the classes. No joke. I did 4 months in the Salvation Army. I knew what I had to do to stay sober.
You knew how to check the boxes.
Oh, I checked them very good. I got a beautiful little check box.
Yeah, I was listening to a speaker last night. They were talking about checking the boxes, and we get good at checking the boxes.
Give us that last year of addiction. before you made that decision?
The last year of addiction, still got to probably set to make amends to the woman that I took advantage of. You know, living in her house, let her take care of everything. I wasn't even working. She took care of everything. And I really thought I was getting away with something. That's like when she told me no that time. It was just like, whoa, what's going on? You know. So, yeah. And that was my last year of using.
That was everything, huh? Your last year, no bottom. What made you realize then it's time to do something different?
Like I said, it was her telling me no. It was just something about the way she said it and brought it to me, because this had already been 4 years into our relationship. She never told me no. And then, you know, and I used the whole time. I mean, there was plenty of times that I said, look, this is going to be my last time doing it. I'm going to go get this much and I'm going to do it all night. And then, you know, I won't do it again. I won't do it anymore. And of course, she tried to be the good, loving woman. It's like, okay, this last time. She even took me to go get it, you know.
So that is a codependent.
Right.
And that is a
Codependent enabling. And
yeah.
Yeah.
So then what was early sobriety like for you? What is your sobriety date?
July 17th.
July 17th.
All right.
Yes.
I'm trying to figure out something with this. I hit capture, and so I got a picture of him up on the screen. It's pretty nice, but I don't have anything else. So that's kind of rough. So what was early sobriety like for you?
Be completely honest, I was still checking boxes. You know, I had a sponsor. I never called him, never contacted with him. I seen him every Thursday at meeting, but that was it. Only meeting I was going to. And that, I mean, I was doing something right, because people seen things change in me, but at the same time, I wasn't working on my mental health. All I was doing was staying sober, because I thought that's all I really had to do.
Mm-hmm.
Then after my brother had passed away, I started, you know, it was brought to my attention that, you know, my recovery is more than just sobriety, and I need to start really working my recovery. So I ended up getting a new sponsor, and that who I've been doing my best to keep up with, you know, and been really working on my mental health. I go see a psychiatrist now every other month. I don't see my therapist much anymore, but I'd still like to talk to him. I'm trying to set up another appointment to go back to him. I always send people to him because I love the way he worked. And I've just come to realize all these things in my past that has caused me to be who I was and why I was using. Yeah, was there any real joy in using? No, it was just really the numbness of all that was around me. And I didn't have to deal with any of my past. I didn't have to deal with missing my daughters. I didn't have to deal with my dad passing away. I didn't have to deal with my brother. You know, it was just the thing. Wasn't using when my brother came around, but it was my dad, you know, passing away. I didn't have to deal with my mom leaving, because as long as I was numb, I was good. And that.
You know, I'm probably going to ask the question the wrong way, but what step in the 12 steps stuck out the most for you?
Step 4, without a doubt, because I actually started digging into, well, actually it was 4, 5, 6, and 7, right, in that order, because of step 4, I actually started really digging into what was really going on with me. You know, I'd never thought in a million years that I was dealing with something that I seen when I was 5 years old. But it has, and it did, until I was able to actually write that out and, you know, forgive. And I was able to recognize my character defects that had happened because of it. And a lot of times in my life, I'm trying to do all these different things to cover up this weakness, this insecurities, and all that stuff I felt from watching my dad swing on my mom. Excuse me. And so getting into 6 and 7, I actually started letting those go. So all that really actually stood out. That's what you were asking?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, most people whine about the 4th step. How was it for you?
It was I'm not going to lie, when I first got in working the steps, I did try to step away from it and not deal with it. Just, you know, write out the few little short, you know, stories. My sponsor at the time, when I was meeting with him, he said, you know, you don't have to write it out like they do in the package. Just write it out like in a story form or something. So I did. I did a couple of times just so when I sat with him, he had something to read, but not until this last couple of years have I actually looked into the 4-step and seen how relieving, actually dealing with these episodes and recognizing these character defects and being able to replace and let those go and replacing them as things gotten better in my life altogether.
What have what have been the biggest challenges you've faced so far in recovery in this 5 years?
Please forgive me, but my family has been a big challenge in my life. 'Cause I've raised these kids a lot in my time, and they're I'm still the eldest. This is my family. A lot of them still use, and so it was my brother's funeral. This is one of the biggest challenging moments that I had. Was at my brother's funeral. We went to the gravesite. Everybody in the family's doing their little airplane shots and throwing it in there because my brother was known for his drinking. And they tried to get, a friend of the family's tried to give me one, and I said no. Oh, you're not even going to just dump it out at least and dude, I'm not even going to touch the bottle. And then my youngest brother's just like, man, I don't drink it. I'm going to do it. And I was like, dude, no. And it's been moments like that I had to deal with that, have been the most challenging. And I love my family. I love you guys. If you ever do listen to this podcast, I do love you guys. And you all mean the world to me, but I got to do me.
Can you tell us about your current support system? Who's involved in your support system right now, your accountability?
My accountability team, really, the majority of it consists of Awake and Sober podcast. Everybody here, which I'm very appreciative of. My wife, without a doubt. If I start acting a certain way, out of place, whatever, where it could lead to using, she's there to hold me accountable. I got you and Mike, who we've had on the show before, hold me accountable at work. And my sponsor holds me accountable on a regular basis. And even got a couple guys at the gym that hold me accountable for showing up. So,
Good.
Yeah, the guy at the cheeseburger bar?
You're so silly, dude. I don't even who invited him?
What was that? I have a headset on and
So when he first posted, he went back to the gym. I said I didn't know they. I commented I didn't know they started selling cheeseburgers at the gym.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's kind
Do you like to eat?
Yeah, I like to eat.
I would have said burritos, but that's just very.
You need to stop.
I love you, Derek.
I know.
Man, we're gonna have a lot of comments probably.
Oh yeah, right. Blonde hair, blue eyes.
What are the common misconceptions about addiction that you would like people to know?
Well, I really want people to really start recognizing, especially guys our age, take a look at your past. There's a reason why you're drinking. There's a reason why you're using. And I think the real misconception is with the addict themselves, where they just think, oh, I just could quit drinking, everything's going to be okay. And no, there's more to it than that. All right, sobriety is only 5 to 10% of your actual recovery. You need to start working your recovery and digging up these things in the past and start dealing with those in order to feel better about yourself, where you're not going and using.
How have you worked through that guilt and shame?
My own guilt and shame?
Mm-hmm.
I've opened up about it. I quit holding it in. I've shared with, my sponsor. I've shared with my wife. And I've surrendered to God above all things, man. He's let me know that I have no reason to feel guilty. I have no reason to be ashamed. I went through what I went through so I could be doing what I'm doing now. All right. The individual can't sit there in front of me at my job and try to tell me, oh, no, this, and that. All right. For one, I know that's a lie because I did it the same way, but this is how I did it, too. But so my biggest release out of my guilt and shame was being with Christ, giving my life over to him and following him. My higher power.
Kind of back to a step question. 12-step. What does it mean to you and how do you live it?
I'd like to think I live it on a daily basis because I share the Lord everywhere I go, where I'm actually allowed to without getting in trouble. Of course, I work in a secular program, but at the same time, there's individuals in there that do ask questions, and the fact that I'm doing a job that nobody would have ever saw me doing. I'm a substance abuse counselor. dude, I was a drug dealer back in the day. I was a manufacturer of some things, and now I'm a substance abuse counselor. That's my 12 step.
Mm.
So you're saying God has a very good sense of humor.
Dude, I'm an ordained pastor. Yeah, I think so.
That's another thing. I mean, you're not only a substance abuse counselor, but you're a pastor.
Yes.
I mean, did you imagine that in 5 years ago when you first got sober, could you imagine this?
No. When I first got a job at a church, I was just like, okay. When it was brought to my attention, I thought, all right, sounds cool. But I never really thought it would have been what it was. And sure enough, yeah, I was employed at a church. I was.
Now, were you still on papers when you came to the church?
I actually was. Yes. I didn't share that part. But yeah, when I actually went to go work to the church, I was still on papers, man. That I had got probation for that possession charge I was just talking about earlier.
Mm.
Yeah, it's pretty wild that a church would take a chance on somebody that is still on probation for it.
Right. Without a doubt. I mean, I don't think I was just creeping up on 2 years clean before I got the job.
Mm.
So
it's good to see. I mean, it's a church that was living out what Jesus would want.
yes, at that moment, anyways.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. What kind of we talked about your faith a little bit, but what kind of higher power relationship do you have, and how has that changed over time, and how has it helped you in your recovery?
First thing I do when I wake up in the morning is hit my knees and thank God that I'm alive another day. Because I shouldn't be here, dude. I have bullet holes. I have stab wounds. There's no reason I should be on this earth right now besides the fact God wants me here for a good reason. So I'm very thankful for what I have, and every day I build my relationship with Him closer and closer. Because especially in the last couple of years, more than anything, when it was brought to my attention how it seemed that I was slipping away from it when I wasn't working my steps and all that kind of stuff, that I really worked more on building that relationship with my higher power. And I am like to feel very faithful to Him because He's been faithful to me.
What would you tell somebody who challenges you on the God thing or the spirituality thing? Like, what do you tell men and women that you work with, about God? How do you do that?
I tell them what's worked for me. All right. I mean, I would love to sit there and be able to preach to these people all day, every day, but as you know, we can't do that.
No.
But when he does get brought up, and what has it done for, and the real question is, what has God ever done for you? Well, I'm glad you asked.
Mm-hmm.
And I shared where I've come from, where I'm at today, and what I do is because of what my higher power has done for me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you may not work that way for you, but that's what worked for me, and this is why I stand behind what I stand behind.
And brother, that's not preaching. That's sharing your story.
Yes.
Right? That's sharing the story of your relationship with God and what He's done for you. And I don't think there's a better testimony than that, personally.
And you guys are allowed to share once they ask.
Oh, once that door's open, I'm walking through it, man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And that's what's beautiful about even being in. Look, they bring us in and they want us to. Me as an outsider, right? Whenever I come in to teach or something like that, I have free reign. And I try not to, because you never know where somebody's going to be at, but I love when they ask that question.
Mm-hmm.
So that way you could open it up. So do you get to share your faith often?
It has gotten a little more than usual, it seems like, as of late. I had a client not that long ago was claimed to be a hardcore atheist. But for me working with him and sharing me and who I was and how I handle things, he's interested in the 12-step program and wants to go ahead and try to identify a higher power.
Mm.
So the hardcore atheists are the fun ones anyway.
Yes, they are.
That's who we're supposed to meet with, to talk with, to turn into disciples of Jesus.
Yes. Yeah, and I love talking with them. I'd rather have a hardcore atheist that really feels what they do about God as opposed to somebody who thinks they already know God and everything about it.
Mm-hmm.
If you knew it so much, I feel that way because I was that guy at one time too. I could preach a sermon and walk away with no big deal and probably end up using by the end of the day.
So what does your weekly routine look like in recovery? What do you do for your recovery?
So I meet with my sponsor once a week. I call him every day as soon as I leave work. So we got this long driveway at my job. And at the end, there's a gate. And I like to say, by the time I make it to that gate, I've already called my sponsor every day. Even after 5 years, I call him every day. And that
Does he answer the phone every time you call him?
no, of course not. But when he
But
does,
how often does he?
but when he does, we have a good conversation. And it seems like he does answer. Like God's telling him, you need to answer this call today
Yeah.
because it's something I need to talk about. You know.
It's like I call him like 3 times and I'm like, dude, I sent you a text message. He's like, what are we doing today? I'm like, I called you. I called you.
I was probably sleeping.
All right, if he sets up a time for you to call him, if you need to talk to him outside of just regular check-in,
Yeah.
don't call him. Talk to him about it. All right. If your check-in's 4:47, do your check-in and then call him at 5:00. He'll answer at 5:00 because he want to know why you call it at 5:00.
Right. Because if you're calling at an odd time, that person needs to know why.
Right.
There's usually something going on that you need to discuss.
Yes.
The check-in is to teach us to do different things and get outside of ourselves. But I had a couple of sponsees that would do that. They'd call me at that time, and if I'm busy, I'm busy. But if you call me at an odd time, I'm answering the phone.
Right.
You know, it's just the way it goes. I don't want something bad to happen, but I also want you to be able to think through things.
Right.
Yeah, and we also know the secret to get you to answer, which
Food?
yeah, no, I mean we know the emergency signal.
Call twice.
Yeah,
Call
and
twice,
I was
that's
gonna
what you
say,
do.
yeah,
Back to back.
and, you know, and I'm driving past the house and I see oh, it's getting ready to rain. There's charcoal sitting out. That's an emergency.
Not really an emergency. That stuff will dry, but it's nice to know.
So my sponsor one time, right? This is when my brother passed, and my wife called him. He didn't answer, so she called him right back. His response was, "This better be an emergency." You know, like
I was in the middle of eating,
my wife's like, "Yeah, Derek's brother just died."
Yeah, that's a
and then I was gone.
Yeah, you made it to his house before I did.
I was rolling.
That's not surprising. The way he dressed. Just saying. What are your plans for the future?
Whatever God's got planned for me. And I know once I get involved, I'm gonna mess it up.
Mm.
All right? I know that Reclaiming Hope is coming around, and I'm hoping to be a big part in that, and I'm quite sure I will. And so my futures right now is being able to lead others to recovery through Christ, just like we try to do right here on this podcast. That's my goal, my future.
So Reclaiming Hope, waiting for building permits.
Yes.
That's what they're doing. What about Scripture? Is there Scripture, since you said that you want to lead them through Christ? What are your go-to? What are those Scriptures that, hey, when crap hits the fan, this is...
So, with not to sound cliche, because I know we all kind of feel in this one, Jeremiah 29:11 is always a big one. You know, God has a plan for us. We just got to be able to recognize what it is. But even though with that, my big one is Luke 9:23. Jesus said to his disciples, "He who chooses to follow me must pick up his cross daily and follow me." And if I'm going to be bringing others to Christ and stuff, that's my cross I got to bear. I got to pick that up and carry that and do what God's called me to do.
Yeah, and I look at that Scripture every time somebody says, hey, you've been in recovery for 11 years. You're a normal person. You can drink. You're a new person in Christ.
Now,
I'm
I
like,
know what Christ wants, and it ain't that.
I said, why would God make it to where I could drink with you? That's one. But I must be willing to die to myself, pick up my cross and follow him.
yes.
So I love that Scripture. I don't think there's many I don't like, but I wanted to find out if you have a life verse, if you have just those verses that you really tend to turn to more often than not.
Those are the red letters in the
The red letters,
right?
yes.
Yeah, that's what we need to read.
Right. Without a doubt, the red letters. But I like the letters from Paul, too, as well. You know, I like when he's telling people, hey, you shouldn't be doing it this way, and this is how it's got to be done.
Amen to that.
So what is that biggest challenge that recovery has given you? I mean, the biggest surprise challenge. We did that earlier. What's the biggest surprise that recovery has given you?
Relationship with my daughters. I had not seen him in 12 years, 11 years in that, and now they have phones where I can contact them and talk to them. Right now, it's not a very high point in everything going on right now. There's just, I don't know what's going on, but I'm letting God handle this. So, yes, my biggest surprise in my recovery has been my relationship with my daughters and my stepson, and even with my brother, my brother that I've worked with for a little while. The relationship that we have now has gotten beyond whatever it was growing up. So that's been because of recovery, and I'm able to share it with him. Even if he's doing whatever it is that he does, he knows my words are real because I mean it from the heart when I speak to him. And that's been a big surprise.
He listens to you.
He does.
He does. He really does listen to you. And I got to tell you, I love your girls.
Yeah.
I do, man. I love them to death, and I know they love you. It's fun to see.
You know what's really fun to see them out throw him on the disc golf course.
That don't take much, brother. I mean, Freya is not far from being able to out throw him.
That's true. Very true.
We're going to pick on you.
Did you even see my daughter's throw? That's right. Yeah, you hit my daughter that day. I remember that. So you got to bring up old stuff. Back to the 4-step.
So,
Write that down. Write that down.
yeah, his daughters play disc golf with us when they're in town. It's fun, though, man. It's fun to get them out there and do it.
I mean, my daughter's in town. They go to the gym with me. They go to church with me. They go to play disc golf with me. I mean, they do everything that I do. They right there with me, and that's not. Yeah, you can't ask for anything more than that. If that's not a godly gift, and there isn't one. Honestly, the way I feel. See, I mean, I know this gift's from God, but I'm just saying that it's all God on this point here.
So I'm going to ask you my last question. It's a two-parter. What message of hope can you give those that are still struggling? And what message of hope can you give to the families of the people that are still struggling?
Right on. Well, message of hope to the addict: don't give up. I just shared the crap that I've been through in my time, and yet here I sit today, as like I said, a substance abuse counselor, a pastor, a co-star on the podcast teaching about recovery. Excuse me. There's hope out there. You don't have to give up. Put forth the work, and it will work for you. It's one of Jeremy's cliches.
It works if you work it.
There it is. And for the families, don't give up on the addict, man. They're dealing with something that you obviously have no idea what it is. That's why you doubt them. Work with them. Find out what it is that they are dealing with, and help them through it. You may not have been active participant in the addiction, but you can be a participant in their recovery. Find out what it is about them that they're struggling with that they need to work through to get them to that recovery point.
So you weren't a willing participant.
There's the word.
Even though they participated, they weren't a willing participant in the addiction. So why not be a willing participant in the recovery?
There you go. There's it. I got to write that down so I can remember it more often.
Jeremy says it. Big Perm says it another way.
What do you say?
I did. I'm sorry. I was over here.
What are you doing?
He says something totally different altogether. So I always tell people, families, you weren't a willing participant, but you were a participant in the addiction. Why not be a willing participant in the recovery? But you always say, "Oh, it's a spectator's." It's
addiction isn't a spectator sport. Eventually, the entire family gets to play.
Right, and that's what I love about Reclaiming Hope is we're involved with the whole family, not just the addict themselves.
Amen.
Everybody in the house is hurt.
Everybody has been hurt by that disease.
Right.
Jay, what else might you have for Mr. D?
I didn't know your whole story, and so this is the first time I'm hearing it. And I'm not gonna lie, I get a little. Again, every daggum podcast, I get emotional, right? So I've known you for a year and a half, and the first time I met you, was at Morningstar, and to see your progression and to be a part of your recovery, because you have more recovery time than me. And so here's a guy who has more recovery time than me that's coming to me and asking me questions at work, because I've just been doing it longer. But it's like, it's comforting to know that I have not only just an accountability buddy outside of work, but it's like something, there's that sense of comfort I get in knowing that I'm working with somebody who is wanting the same things in life and is going in the same direction. And the only thing we have to do is keep doing the next right thing. And
He couldn't help it,
I
man.
couldn't help it. I couldn't help
Can
it.
we just do the next wrong thing? Let's beat them.
Yeah, that ain't gonna work.
We'll have a blanket party.
Oh, but I know you're struggling with something because I just know, and I want you to know that I'm praying for you, and I hope that our listeners out there can be praying for you too, man. Because I don't want to see you carrying any burden that you don't need to be carrying, and I love you, brother, and I really appreciate you sharing this.
I love you too, man. Thank you.
Man, after that, I don't know what to say. I mean,
I'll tell you, talk better into your mic so that way I can hear you
do I
better.
talk better into my mic? I
There
do
you
talk
go.
better into my mic. It's difficult when the person I'm talking to is sitting next to me and I want to look at them and make eye contact. Like
So you got to do this. You got to turn your head, but
I'm
keep your
just
mouth
good like
right
this.
here.
I'm just good like that. I'll just look forward and know I'm talking to you. Yeah, I will. Man, I love you, brother. I mean, I know I give you a hard time and I ride you, but man, I really don't know a better person to be around. And I'm really rooting for you. And man, I love you.
I love you too, brother. As much as I want to put my foot up your rear, I still got nothing but love for you, man.
Hey, look, keep the boxing gloves off. Keep
No,
the boxing.
no. Put the boxing gloves on. That way the foot's not involved and it's not. Yeah, I mean, I'd take it in the face, but
Look, you have meant the world to me. You have meant the world to my family. You mentor my son. He loves you dearly. Freya, your goddaughter. You got a good soul, my brother. A good soul. God has gifted you well and is using you well. And I couldn't imagine doing life without you. I mean, look, man, Battle Bros, right?
That's it.
That's what it's about.
That's it. Yes. You guys, I appreciate all you guys do for me here, man. I can't sit and say that it's been an easy path because it hasn't. Even giving of myself over to Christ, there's still the battle. And it's good knowing that I got battle brothers like y'all got my back, man.
Indeed. Any final comments, closing arguments, whatever? Closing arguments. I guess we're in court. The lawyer's not here today, so. What do you have in closing?
Hey, I just want to share, whoever's out there listening, if you're still in your active addiction, look, there's hope. It can be done, no matter where you're coming from. I know we come into contact with individuals. Oh, you don't know what I've been through. Hey, brother, I've been through a lot myself, and you know what? I may not know what you've been through, but I'm sure you can get through it as long as you work it the proper ways, giving yourself over to Christ and going forward with it. There is hope.
Without a doubt. Steve?
Man, just keep working on it. That's the whole battle. Is it's a process and it's never easy. And one of the things I was talking to one of my friends and they were talking about when they got baptized recently, and that once you kind of make that step, the devil puts a big old target on your back and aims for you. Mm-hmm. And you may be working recovery, but all of a sudden you start really accepting Christ. All of a sudden it ain't going to get easier; it's going to get harder, because now there's that he's going to try a little bit harder to knock you off your game, and you got to be on your toes, and you got to be aware of it. I mean, it's it never says it's going to be easy.
I think Christ said quite the opposite.
Exactly. But everyone wants to think, I'll do this and everything. Life's going to be easy, and no, it's work. You got to work it every day. You got to take it one day at a time, one moment at a time, and you got to get to that next day.
There we go. More cliches.
You got to accept hardship is a pathway to peace, my brother.
Yes.
Jeremy, any last scriptures?
Yeah, I was looking at one here from Deuteronomy 31:6. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them, for the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you.
Amen.
Amen. Like, share, subscribe.
Yeah, like, share, subscribe.
Yes.
Any podcast platform out there.
There you go.
And we need you to like, share, and subscribe, but we also need you to leave comments. I mean,
Yes.
tell us how you could relate to Derek's story. Tell us how good he did, how bad he did.
And if you have a story,
Yes.
leave a comment and share that you want to share it with us, because we want to hear it.
Yeah, because if they send an email to info@awakensober.org, we will go through those emails. And if we can't bring you into the studio, Jeremy's basement, but it's our studio, really.
It is.
If we can't bring you in here, we have great tools to get you online and let you share your story. We want you. We want people to hear your story. So send us that email to be wonderful. With that, I'm going to tell you
What
from
was
me,
that email again?
info@awakensober.org. It'll be in the comments.
info@awakensober.org.
Yeah, it'll definitely be in the show notes.
Yeah,
That's what I was looking for, show notes.
We don't discriminate. We'll take you from any podcast platform.
Hey, look, man, it's been fun getting it all out there.
Yeah, it is.
With that, God bless you guys. We love you. Thank you for being here, and have a good week.
Have a great week, everybody.
Peace out.